So we have the. I'm sorry, I apologize about this, but we have the Janet twins and Rose and Richard trying to substitute in for Sam.
Yay.
And we're live. And we've been talking about how it's preferable to be a below average rated professor. And so we're all going to strive. I think we're all going to strive for that. And some aspects of this course help with that. Let me see if I can screen share my agenda like Sam does. And then you won't have to look at me anymore. I got to click share. Okay. That's looking good, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Okay. And so, you know, like the usual thing, if anyone hasn't added anything, just we'll go through this stuff, and then we'll see if there's anything new. I am still, as I was talking before we went live, I still can't update my normal book to 1.1.1. The
Wow.
reason that this is an issue for me is that sort of along with that, I am about to start the Rails portion of the course with my class.
Mm-hmm.
And I start doing what Sam does as a asking students to complete the walkthrough of building the rotten potatoes in chapter 4, and that particular chapter has been one where there have been updates, you know, to make things like sort of perfect with, you know, changes and versions of things. So I'm guessing that if I or students don't have the latest version and they're trying to do that walkthrough, they may encounter problems. I will be looking into the errata, you know, if I can't get the latest version, and to advise students. But while I'm saying that, has anyone really recently done the chapter 4 walkthrough as Sam advises? I see a raised hand in the classroom.
Yeah, so we just did that last week in my class. All of the problem students ran into were either because they were using an older version of the textbook or because of typos, some of which were an educational experience. The most interesting problem I've seen with the walkthrough so far is where a student, in setting up their routes, typed resource movies instead of resources movies. And that one letter difference led to their index page not working because singular resources don't have indexes. That was a really good teachable moment.
Interesting. Now, when you say typos, you mentioned older versions and typos, are you saying that did you identify typos in the latest 1.1.1 version?
No, this is students' own typos when if they're transcribing instead of copying and pasting.
Got it, not book typos. Got it,
yes.
Got it. Okay, but other than that, at least in theory, if they follow the stuff you guys, I mean, at least, well, you in particular, got it to work successfully. I'm planning to try and go through it today on my own before my class tomorrow. I'm going to have them do it in class, either in pairs or on their own. Do you have any sense, any of you have any sense about how long this process takes, you or students?
For me, with everything going fairly smoothly, it took about 2 hours. I told my students to allocate about 7 hours for both the walkthrough and homework 2, and at least some groups look like they're going to be on track to finish within that amount of time.
Okay, that's impressive. I think the walkthrough is going to take 2+ hours, and homework 2 is, you know, for people that are not familiar, which was included me the first time I did it, you know, took a good chunk of time. But you know, I helped out with that by trying to give people like lots of good pointers and advice if they want to listen.
Yeah, I think that's good. You should also know that my students, I think, are a bit more advanced than yours. I think we've talked about that before.
So my students have homework 2 due tonight, and I did not require the walkthrough, but some of them did it anyway. And one thing and it took a couple of students before I realized this is what was happening. if they try to do homework 2 based on the My Rotten Potatoes, the database will not be set up properly in the gem.
Right.
So some of you have seen this. So yeah, so I'm getting these emails going, it's talking about SQLite, and then the second student sent me a screenshot, and then I realized that they were basing it on My Rotten Potatoes, and that was why it didn't work. So
one thing I have on my to-do list to do in my local environment is to make sure that students can start a problem from scratch and put it on Heroku because of problems like that. And that's not pertinent to homework 2, but it is pertinent to them getting started on their projects.
And that, once you document that, that would be interesting to share somehow, whatever our sharing mechanism.
yeah, I would love that.
Could I ask a little more about that?
Sure. So I had some students try to do homework 2 based on their My Rotten Potatoes.
Right.
I didn't see the database issues that Janet B. saw.
No, yeah, what are the database issues? That's what my students are doing that today.
Yeah.
So in the gem file, they have the one that you get if you download the Rails intro, so a new copy for the homework, specifies that for development and test, it's going to use the SQLite 3.
Right.
But then in production, it will use the Postgres.
Of course, yeah.
But if you do the My Rotten Potatoes, walking through the book, it's not assuming they're going to deploy into production. So it doesn't have that different...
So it doesn't have the Postgres for production.
It doesn't have the Postgres for production.
Yes, I did see that too.
Okay, that's kind of interesting because previously that homework had instructions somewhere that said for production you must do such and such.
Yeah, they may have missed that.
Yeah, so now like it's in, you're saying when you download the starting software for 2, it's in there already. It doesn't tell them to edit it.
Right, and I don't know that she's been saying that she's like looked and seen that it's not in there. She's just saying if people start with...
Yeah, sure. Okay, I understand.
Yeah,
and that My Rotten Potatoes, then apparently it isn't in there, or at least it wasn't for those students. But if they start the homework fresh, it's fine.
Okay, yeah, in the past, they made a point of saying to the students, okay, you know, you may have had this, blah, 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 and this is what you have to do for production, which actually I thought was a better idea. You know, that they see, all right, this is what you do in development, this is what you do in production.
Yeah, I'm
looking at it now, yeah.
Right, I'm doing the same.
Right. No, that's good. That's what I wanted to see.
Yeah, this is information I think I'm going to share with my students as they get their projects started. And I just need to run through it myself and make sure I've got it. The other problem I ran into is that on our local Linux setup, we're running Ruby 1.9.1, and Heroku is on 1.9.3. So that's a little discrepancy to resolve. But it can be resolved by editing the gem file.
Okay, but that is what our VMs are using? I thought our VMs had been updated to 1.9.
The VMs have been updated, but I also have some students working on our local Linux systems.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. I didn't understand that. Yeah.
So that may not be a problem for anyone else.
Yeah, they tried to set me up with a virtual machine because they didn't want to install VirtualBox here, and I'm like, no. I said, I'm not even going there.
We got things pretty much.
Yeah.
We got things pretty much working on the local area network, but I also have a lot of students running in the VM on their own computers, and that's just fine with me.
Yeah.
My tech guy installed the VM, installed VirtualBox in our network, and then the students created the VM. But what they do to save, space and backup time and everything else is they create a snapshot and work from that. And that worked out well.
Okay, so I guess you saw my screen. I have to be careful about what I do here. But I didn't see the particular admonition that those of us old timers remember that said, hey, just be careful if you don't start from our template, that there's some other things to do. Who knows? It may say that in the book, but I just tell my students, start from the template, and that there's some peculiar things which we'll have documented possibly from Janet about exactly what changes need to be made for Heroku. So just to finish,
they do have a section in the book that talks about that. That talks about how in development you have to use something like SQLite, and you're going to use something else in development.
So anyway, so on my Kindle thing, I think that's ongoing. I will try and get that updated. And Sam sent me a Whispercast link as a way of distributing the book, and I did try that just in case he listens to this. But it didn't directly solve my problem, and that was like a little mystery in itself. Even though I signed up for Whispercast, I could see no evidence that I had actually signed up for it. So who knows? Anything else updated? I don't. On the outstanding, I'll just mention mine. Making sure that the raw grade functionality and looking in is not lost is on my to-do list. I have a break next week. We have what we call our fall break.
Wow, that's great.
Anything? Yeah, it's just one class day that I get a break on. So I've been pushing.
That's a pretty measly fall break.
I've been pushing anything. That's not urgent to that, so that's the kind of thing I'll look into then. I'm okay. I'm not worried about that. Anything else that you guys have updated? Sam wants us to just chime in on edX help forum requests and for new features and so forth.
Now, do we need to email Sam to get our SPOC 2s? Because I know I'm in the last week of the current SPOC.
Oh, are you? You're zipping along.
Sam, I think he likes.
Yeah, I'm moving very quickly.
Wow.
Yeah, I would say if he's not aware of that, definitely do it because.
Because basically next week's going to be kind of catch up, and then the week after that I've got an exam, and I'm trying to give them more time in class for projects. In Monday's class. I hit a certain point in the lecture, and then I said, do you want to meet in your teams and watch the video, or do you want me to keep lecturing? And they're all like, video! So, so I've been kind of rushing them to try to I want them to be able to do their projects, so I've been really pushing them on the programming.
Great. And on the SPOC 2, you are aware that many of us, at least me, have just found it easier to have them sign up for a separate course because trying to combine them is, in theory, possible. But just too much work. I've once tried combining one section, and it was a smaller section. It was like too much.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it's slow.
And the students can just deal with it. Okay. On the real agenda, thank you, Janet B, for discovering that. I was in the background when you were emailing, and I was trying, my homework one, and I was going to chime in if anything worked for me. And since I was experiencing the same thing as you, I just waited in silence, and Sam restarted the graders. This was a tip, just so you know, earlier on, this was like more of a regular occurrence. So that's why those of us, and it's almost been surprising how few problems there have been. And I just, only know it's been like twice this semester that there have been problems. So luckily, I don't know what we'd do if Sam disappeared. We'd probably just all have to look for new jobs.
Yeah.
But that's something, if anyone wants to make a note of this, that they should think about, like, okay, what's the backup in case Sam is sort of sick or not responsive? What's our next contact? Because it's not clear to me that it's the Berkeley people, and it's not clear to me like who at edX. I don't think edX people know how to restart the graders. There's just some permissions involved going into the account and checking the processes. So it would be good to have a backup since so many people are relying on that.
I've got a related issue there, and that is ongoing and in the future. What is edX's position on these SPOCs? And are they going to, support some other things that we need? For instance, one thing I've mentioned is we really need to have a way of entering grades directly into the, performance area.
Right. Yeah, and I will leave that, for me personally, I will leave that up to you, who are like really trying to use edX as the primary mechanism. I don't trust it for exactly the reason that we're not a priority for them, and so if edX, the first time I ran the course, I did it without edX, and I just set up links to the videos in my Moodle system, and I had sort of handcrafted with the student's help. Well, actually, the student pretty much did it. In Ruby on Rails, AutoGraders, which I was way happier with, had way more functionality, was way easier to use. In other words, we used Berkeley scripts, but we just put our own front end on it. So that's where I would go if edX disappears, rather than fighting with them.
Does anybody know if edX is built on Moodle? Because I notice a lot of similarities between the interface, and I do wonder if you were to use an LTI interface into the AutoGrader, you could then plug it into any LMS. Which would be nice.
I'm curious what platform they build it on entirely. I mean, it'd be interesting to know the underlying. I mean, one of the ideas I had is if it's difficult to get certain things done, maybe I could talk them into making it sort of a project.
Yeah, well,
if it fit in.
This came up. This has come up, and at one point, edX said, "Oh, we're open source." So, like, if you have all these good ideas, like, let's get it together. I have pursued that very much, but next semester when I run my project class, where I have like sort of seniors looking to do real projects, man, it would be really nice if it was sort of at all possible to link in and have an open source project and have these guys do as project stuff. That would be helpful to me and this group in general. And all of you who are even doing projects this semester, if you have especially sort of advanced or ambitious students, start that ball rolling and at least find out if if there's any viability to this, because my students will likely not be the top performers. But if it's possible to link in and upgrade and add functionality, that would be an awesome.
Well, one of the things I talked to Sam about is the idea of having some of our students, as their projects, work on the AutoGraders.
Yeah, that's all part of what I'm.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, it's in it, and Sam agrees that it would be a great idea. So, I mean, I guess I'm just saying that we've already sort of at least touched on that.
Right, and the AutoGraders sort of behind the scenes. The AutoGraders is just like really creating like our spec tests. So.
Yeah.
Creating an AutoGrader in some sense is creating a new assignment and all that. So it's not clear that that's that's a different kind of student project.
Oh, yeah.
Adding to the interface would be great. Okay.
Can I ask one more question? In Chapter 4, there's this section, and there's this figure 4.4, where the students are asked to try some things just in the in the terminal, and create a movie and do certain things with fields and update them, etc., etc. And it's before they do much of the other stuff. And I was just wondering, how many of you had them do that in the walkthrough, and did it work? Because last year there was a problem with that section.
I haven't tried it. I just ran and got my book, and I'm opening it up.
It's on. Well, if you've got the new book, it's 110, page 110, figure 4.4.
Yeah, I mean, I tried that stuff years ago, so I haven't tried it recently.
Well, last year, if they did this, because later on it tells them to turn off that strict control for the mass assignment.
Yes.
But this is before that, so I'm just curious how this would work without doing that first.
I ran through the book, and I actually didn't even use Pastebin last spring, and there were some bugs where there were some settings that had to go in that later they talked about how to do it, and then I found them in the errata.
Yeah, well, I guess that's what I'm saying. Is that still there? Because this seems like magic for it to work without that change.
And what version of the book are you looking at, Rose?
I'm looking at the latest and greatest first edition.
Okay, tell me, can you just to be clear, can you just tell me the exact version number?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. It isn't the one that just came out. It's the the first edition 1.0.
I had that problem too. I had exactly the problem you're.
So the thing you need to do before you identify it as a problem, you need to look online if you have access to it of the 1.1.1, because in theory that would be the only one sort of interest if there are problems. And the current,
you're absolutely right.
The current errata, even and that's the other thing to double check. That's what I'm gonna try and make a pass through and see, because even stuff that's beyond 1.1.1 that's listed in there. So if it's identified, we can know ourselves and tell students.
So Janet, did you say that you did have that problem?
Yeah, using version 1.0 of the textbook, I had exactly the problem you had, Rose.
Oh, okay.
I don't think it's a problem in 1.1.1 because none of my students who are using the newest version of the textbook did not run into that problem.
Or they're not going to work.
Yeah, I don't think any of my students have 1.1. I think they all have 1.0.
Right. So you need to check. That's something that I would encourage you to check. That's one of the reasons I'm trying to get this update, Kindle update version addressed, and I am surveying my students and asking them, and I have a number of people who confirm when they updated, sort of no problem. So I'm just not sure if this is an issue with me and the way Sam gave me the gift and the way it's configured, or if it's a generic problem. Do any of you have any sense of whether students have been able to update successfully to 1.1.1?
I updated during our meeting last week.
And you got yours as a gift?
I did, yeah.
I paid for mine and I updated it during the meeting. There was no problem.
I feel... Okay. Okay.
If
I didn't have confidence in myself and my computer skills, I would be very suspicious of myself, because I know students tell me all the time, "Oh, I did this and I tried that."
Right.
It turns out I really didn't. So I'm even skeptical of my problem.
Okay, I'm looking at the latest, and let's see. It says Figure 4.4.
Well, the latest, Rose, you mean just to confirm, 1.1.1?
I'm looking up on Kindle. This is I downloaded. I updated it, so I'm assuming. How would I know on Kindle which
go to the cover page and go to the cover page and go
Right.
forward 1 or 2 or 3 pages.
Okay, got it. Yeah, that way I could make sure that it actually updated, because who knows, maybe mine didn't either. Oh, you're right, it didn't. Wow.
Okay, so then I wouldn't worry about test. You can try your update.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry about testing anything out until you have 1.1.1.
Okay, I'm trying to remember what Sam said about updating.
Okay, well, one of the things that I think we found, you can update in your Kindle app and say just refresh library, but we found that for many people, you go to your Amazon, manage Kindle and content page, and from there sort of push an update. That's what I've been trying unsuccessfully. But when I do that, it does show progress. When I go back to my app, any of my Kindle apps, it does show it downloading, and it it does initially.
Wow. Yeah.
But, and you guys, I hate this. I apologize, but the other Janets, does that sound familiar? Like anything? Have you done anything different?
It's possible I was getting the ebook for the first time, which would put me in a different situation.
Oh yeah. When I download the sample, I get 1.1.1, but I only get the first chapter. And I have even tried removing it from my library and uninstalling apps and all that kind of stuff. So Okay, but that's something I think it's what is important is just that everyone knows, both for us instructors and for students, look at that version before you start sort of complaining and finding things that.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Thank you for reminding me about that.
Yeah. Okay. So, example solutions I haven't checked, but that's fine. We know. Sam is the guardian. I even might have a little bit of access to a couple of things in case there's permission problems. Like I said, for the AutoGraders, we should always think about having some kind of backup. Like the President of the United States, a succession.
A succession plan.
Okay. This was from Reuven's. I think Reuven was. Someone was having problem editing the Agile Ventures status, and I think because of that, Sam copied and pasted this in. But that's more of a question for Sam, like adding things to Spock. Test edit comments. Okay. So, and then anything else? It's 12:35. But sort of anything else that people want to share? Okay. Oh, I'm seeing no's. Next semester, I have a Wednesday, Friday teaching schedule. So times, or we may want to look at the end of this fall as we're like dancing around. We may want to find an additional time. Are you guys teaching this next semester or something like it? No.
Oh, yeah.
I won't get to for 2 more years.
Oh my goodness.
2 years.
I get to do an elective every other year.
Okay, so what we need
Small
to
school.
do, the end of the semester, since you may not be an active part of this, we need to have an online party.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I may pop in just as this is my little software engineering support group because everybody else here is theory.
Absolutely.
So it's me and a bunch of mathematicians.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was a very unhappy camper the first semester that we did this, because when you look at all the materials, like the California folks said, hey, we're going to have AutoGraders and support and this and that, and basically they got so embroiled with putting their stuff on what was then Coursera and now edX that they really weren't taking the time to support, and I was just like an unhappy camper, and Sam was involved in that, but he was sort of agreeable. He was like, Armando and Dave, you're doing so great. What you're doing is so lovely. Anything you do or not do is fine. And I was there like, I really need some help. So what I'm saying is exactly this kind of like little support group, even just to seeing other people do it and work with it, because I was probably the only one at that time really trying to take their course material and do it in a classroom. Sam was doing his thing online, and he had a lot more experience with the technology. So yeah, I do agree that I at least don't have this in my own university environment. So this is nice.
Yeah, this course comes back for me next fall, and I have to say I've really enjoyed it. It's a really novel experience to have people to talk with about teaching an upper level course. Before now, I've only had been able to talk with colleagues about the intro course. This is a really great group.
Well, I hope we can do a meetup at SIGSI or something.
Oh, absolutely.
At when?
Janet, Rose, are either of you going to be at Grace Hopper next week?
What's going on?
Sadly not.
What is this?
The Grace Hopper Celebration of Women in Computing?
Oh, where is it?
Phoenix.
Oh, well, I'm certainly not going to be there.
Look out for it for next year.
I don't have the budget. I'd love to. If it was local,
that's rough.
It was someplace that I could drive to, I would go.
Yeah, I wasn't invited.
Yeah. By the way, I've been asked to do this course every semester, so
wow.
I will be here.
Yeah, and I have this. This is a required course. I am just for my university, and I am just sort of completing the paperwork to try and increase the prerequisites. So I'm hoping I'll have like a little bit more accomplished students. But I've been assigned this after trying to get out of teaching a software engineering course for many years, somewhat successfully. Then I got it, and now I'm actually asking for it because
It's fun.
Yeah.
I don't know that to say that I enjoy it, but at least I sort of feel committed to it. But if they,
Yeah.
they'll just assign people, at will. So at any point they could assign someone else to teach this class, and that would be like a whole sort of different deal.
Yeah.
I don't know that they would take on what I'm doing. So, but for right now, I have, my plan would be to have 100. Well, I'm assigned next semester. Yeah, I'm going to have over 100 students
Wow.
again.
Wow, I can't imagine doing this with that many students.
That would be really hard. But you have teaching assistants, I hope?
Yeah.
I have one course assistant.
Right. And so that my teaching assistants are additional burdens to manage.
I know.
Exactly. Herding cats.
But they are extra bodies in the classroom too.
Yeah. And this year, so far so good. So far so good. I'm realizing a little bit. It takes a lot of luck and a little bit of skill to pick good teaching assistants.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so once we're done here, I'm going to start my Chapter 4 walkthrough or contact Amazon or do both. I wonder if, Sam, we can all, if you watch this, which I can't imagine he would, thanks, and maybe we'll see him or me next week. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Good. Thanks.
Okay,
Richard.
and I'll look for that research link and strive to be a below average professor.
There you go. Okay, I put it on the agenda.
That's good. Okay, thank you, Rose.
All right.
Okay.
Sure. Have a
Enjoy.
good one.
Wait a second. Wait. Before we leave, we need to do. We need to have rate my tele.
Oh. Say it again.
Oh, we just lost Richard.
We just lost Richard.
Yeah.
Oh dear. He's frozen.
Yeah,
I'm
what's
sure
going
whatever
on?
it was brilliant.
No doubt.
I think we ought to have rate my students.
Yes.
Yeah, but of course that would be a privacy issue. It's amazing that, it doesn't go the other way.
Well, we're professionals, they're students.
Yeah, that's the way it is.
Yep. Well, take care. I probably won't see you next week because I'll be at Grace Hopper, but...
Oh, yeah, I'd love to hear about that.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, take care. Bye.